welcome everyone. This is Miko Alino. I am the programs coordinator of GAIA Asia Pacific, based here in Quezon City, Philippines. And I'd like to welcome everyone to GAIA Asia Pacific's first Learn by the Nuggets webinar for this year, 2020. Um, Maybe a lot of us are staying at home, and hopefully we'll spend some time to um, in front of our screens to learn some bits about zero waste and waste picker issues and other things that may be related to um, how we deal with resource management. And for this webinar series, we'll be featuring the work of our members, maybe discussing new reports released by GAIA and its members, and some in-depth discussion of some campaigns that we're doing here in our region. Um, for this afternoon or for this morning, our topic will focus on waste pickers. So that the webinar title is On the Front Lines, Waste Pickers and Workers in Asia. In this webinar, we will share with you the situation for waste pickers and waste workers during the uh, COVID-19 pandemic and how our members on the ground are helping them safeguard their welfare and protect their rights. And before I introduce our amazing speakers or presenters for today, I'd like to give a special shout out to my colleagues, Trish and Sonia, for hosting us. Hopefully, we'll able to pull this off and have more webinars in the future. Um, for our presenters today, we have Suchismita Pai or Suchi from SWaCH. Suchi Pai is leading the outreach program of SWaCH, India's first cooperative owned and run by waste pickers and urban poor. Suchi has more than 2 decades of experience working in the corporate world before refocusing on freelance journalism and community outreach. She holds director positions in several social enterprises and startups, mainly related to waste management and waste pickers. Suchi has postgraduate degrees in journalism, economics, and business management. And for our second presenter, we have uh, Nguyen Hoai Linh of Enda, Vietnam. Ms. Linh is the country director of Environmental Development Action in the Third World, or Enda. She oversees Enda's work on sustainable development, urbanization, natural resource management, gender, climate change, and community development fund. Currently, Lynn manages a USAID funded project towards a higher effectiveness of the informal sector of waste pickers, focusing on increased income and social protection. She holds a master's degree in social work. Before we ask our speakers to present, I'll just explain the structure of this webinar and some technical logistics. This webinar will last for 1.5 hours. We'll start off with the presentations and have time for questions and answers in the end. We'll invite people are encouraged to use the Q&A section in our screen to send questions to our speakers. And please don't use the chat box for Q&As. But if you feel like sharing some links to our panelists and our audience, you may do use that area. Uh, we'd like to remind everyone to keep their mics muted. So and then use the Q&A section for the questions. And if you have any technical trouble, if you don't hear people talking, or um, you can contact the technical support through the chat box. Okay, so I guess without further ado, I'd like you to give the floor to Suchi of SWaCH.
Good
Suchi?
morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here, and I'm very happy to be in such, an aware company where everybody knows about waste and everybody knows so much already that I don't have to actually speak a lot about it. I would like to tell you a little bit about SWaCH, and then I would be very happy to answer all the questions that you might have. Do feel free to let me know if there's something I should be doing differently in case there is something. So can we have the initial slide as you can see right now? If you've seen on your screen, it says Pune Municipal Corporation and SWaCH Pune Cooperative. So to start with, can we have the next slide, please? Yes, thank you. So SWaCH is basically one of the SWaCH was born out of another organization called Kagaz Kaj Patra Kashtakari Panchayat. For short, we will call it KKPKP. And KKPKP is actually a trade union that was born some 25 years ago for the rights of the waste pickers. The idea was that when waste pickers started talking about, when waste pickers were asked initially how they viewed themselves as what they were doing, they did not think of what they were doing as work. So they wanted to, to give them an identity, to make sure that it was thought of as work, and so that other people would also think of it as work. A trade union was started. The trade union currently also has about 9,000 members 25 years later. They're all from Pune and nearby areas, and they can be anybody from the regular waste pickers of SWaCH, from those who are itinerant, who are going to the landfills, who are picking up waste from there, and it could be small time scrap owners and scrap dealers, scrap shop dealers and people like that. So it's a varied mix of people who work in the area of waste. That is KKPKP. About 10, 12 years ago, there was a need for somebody to, for the uh, municipal corporation actually invited the waste pickers to become part of the formal system. The idea was that the waste would be collected from door to door so that you would get better quality waste. The waste pickers would get better quality waste and less waste would go into the landfills. With an idea to include everybody in the system, it was thought of as the cooperative system, which would be the best way to take the organization forward. A cooperative, as you all know, every member of the cooperative is an owner of the business. So we have currently over 3,500 waste pickers, and all the waste pickers actually own the business. I mean, they are the business owners, which means they also decide exactly what they want to do. As you can see encapsulated here, it is a public-private partnership. It is the first and largest cooperative of which is wholly owned by waste pickers. As you can see, they go collecting recyclable materials from streets and everywhere else. Waste pickers have been organizing themselves since '87, but actually the KKPKP was in 1992, and then 1993 is when it actually became a actual union. And the impact of the waste pickers today is that we cover over 8.4 lakh properties in the city of Pune and save the municipality over 100 crores every year, is what our contribution to the entire system is. There are other impacts like your environmental impacts, social impacts, and things like that, which we will talk about as we go ahead. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Okay. So this is the city profile of Pune, wherein we have, the city is broken up into 15 administrative wards, and that is how we also run the entire system. We have 15 ward coordinators who head the system within SWaCH, and they look after each of those each of the areas that they are supposed to actually you know be responsible for. They are responsible for a certain area. Each of those wards is also further divided into prabhags. These are based on the electoral system, wherein the electoral people have to, I mean, the way the elections are held, that is how prabhags happen. The number of households currently that we cover are 8 lakh. The number of households, as you can see, total number is much more. The number of slums we cover is over 1.5 lakh homes. One and a half, how do I say it? 150,000 homes is what we cover. And we cover current, I mean, before COVID happened, the average waste that was collected per day was about 1,800 to 2,000 tons. It would vary every day, but 1,800 to 2,000 tons was collected by the entire Pune municipality, of which you would have about 1,200 tons being collected by 12 to 1,300 tons collected by the waste pickers of SWaCH. Next slide, please. So this is the composition of waste. As you can see, there is organics, then there is organic waste as in wet waste, there is paper, plastic, and each of these is mapped, and we have kind of figured out which is what waste. There is, if you notice, there is a category of sanitary waste which currently has a lot of importance, and I'll come to that in a little bit when I talk more about the sanitary waste. But in general, this is the composition of Pune waste. This is how Pune waste looks. In a more advanced country, you may have, or in the West, you may have a lot more sanitary waste. For instance, you may have more e-waste, and you may have more of plastic, maybe less of organics. But this is how the system of Pune works. Can I have the next, please? So Pune, I mean, the whole system is extremely decentralized. And this is one question which I get very often as to how do you collect waste and what happens to it. So ideally, when we collect waste, each of the waste pickers decides how much waste they want to collect, how many households they want to service. I may be a person who can, without any problems, collect waste from 250 homes. But I could also maybe have, other issues that I'm doing, or I may not have the need to collect more than 100 homes. So it depends on me how much time I have and how many households I will collect waste from. So the waste pickers collect anywhere from say 100 homes to 500 homes is what an average is. So I would say an average is around 250 homes per waste picker is how the whole system works. And mostly they work with the carts that you can see in one of the pictures here. They are push carts. They have a place for buckets in which the waste is collected. It is collected in a segregated manner, wet and dry waste. And the wet waste is, as much as possible, there is encouragement to compost it in situ. We encourage societies to compost it, but there are certain areas. For instance, in a slum, it is impossible to compost waste right there, in which case it goes into the PMC system of waste management, and it gets composted within the PMC, the Pune Municipal Corporation facilities. Dry waste is collected from everywhere, and then it is sorted. I mean, further sorted. It is coming as dry waste, but it is fine segregated, wherein we are actually, from the whole system, we are actually able to divert away about 220 metric tons every day for recycling. So when you have, as all of you who are here on the webinar would know, when you have a decentralized waste management system, it helps reduce costs because you keep your waste local. Actually, what happens is, just like you're encouraged to eat local, that is, you become a locavore, it's a good idea also to have a decentralized waste management system wherein you keep your waste local, transportation costs are highly reduced, and you have to only make sure that whatever is not whatever is not recyclable, or whatever is absolutely impossible. Like for instance, to give you example, sanitary waste would be one of those things which is difficult to keep local. So that is certainly transported, that is certainly taken away. But organic waste, for instance, you can keep it local, you can compost it, it goes down in weight when you make it into compost. It can be used within the system. You do not even have to send it anywhere. So decentralized waste management system basically ensures that all this is happening in every day. Every day, all this happens, wherein we collect around 1,250 metric tons. 220 metric tons is, recycled, as you can see from the picture there. A lot of it goes to, some of it goes to processing plants, and some of it goes to wet waste is given away to the farmers, and this is the whole system. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay. So this is the history of SWaCH. I mean, I did touch upon it initially, wherein if you can, I mean, I could share the entire PPT with you, but this is how SWaCH started. As you can see, it started out with just the KKPKP, which came into being in 1993, and ID cards were given to waste pickers in 1996. Then when the system realized that, okay, thanks to the way the waste is being collected, there are savings to the system. And this was done by an international labor organization study that proved it. Then in 2005, 2006, there was a pilot project that was run based on which SWaCH was formed actually. And the first there was an earlier contract with the municipal corporation, and the current contract that we are in, which is the 2016 one, is what is in effect right now. And we started out with fewer number of, in 2017 there were hardly 5.5 lakh homes that were being covered, 550,000 homes that were being covered, and today we are covering over 850,000 homes are being covered by SWaCH waste pickers every day, who go across the city. We also cover a whole lot of slums. So one of the experiments, and we are constantly evolving. I mean, we are taking on more projects, we are taking on different ideas as the idea of waste also changes. For instance, anybody who has been working in the field will probably know that plastic, for instance, was not a very big component 25 years ago. Today, plastic is a huge component. Multi-layered plastic is even more recent, but it is one of the biggest problems, because when you talk of multi-layered packets, things like chips and things like your snacks which come in multi-layered plastic, it is not just one kind of material that is there. So it has got a little foil in the beginning, and then you have a little bit of plastic on which things can be printed, and so on. So that is one of the most difficult things to recycle. But today, after 4 years of work with ITC, which is a big company, and with the PMC, SWaCH has come up with a system wherein we collect the multi-layered plastic separately, and we actually ensure that it is diverted away from the system, and it is taken away for recycling, for creating new products. So we are constantly innovating. We are also, if you have heard about the Red Dot project, to which I will be coming shortly, it is about sorry, sanitary waste. And sanitary waste, one of the problems that came to fore when the waste pickers started working was that sanitary waste, when they would work and when they would try and sort through waste, as you may know, all waste pickers sort through all kinds of waste every day by hand. When they were sorting the waste, they realized that sanitary waste is something that they would rather not even have to open. So how would you solve the problem? The problem came up from the grassroots, the problem came up from the waste pickers, but how would you solve the issue? So the way to do it was actually, thank you, 10 minutes, I got the thing. So the way to do it was to actually find out, educate citizens about how you should wrap your waste, how you should wrap your sanitary waste. And that is how the Red Dot campaign came about. So the needs of the waste pickers keep coming from the waste pickers. And then there is a board that is governing SWaCH. The board comprises of waste pickers themselves who come from different parts of the city. They talk about whatever their problems are, and that is how the whole system is run. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so this is a pictorial representation of how the whole system works. The lady in the middle is the SWaCH worker. She collects the waste from door to door. She goes to different, and the waste then gets further segregated. It goes into all these systems, and that is how the whole system works. I mean, that's a pictorial representation. That's what I was talking about. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so this is basically, again, how the integration worked. I have spoken about it overall, and this is the specifics of it. We identify waste pickers, then we, know where the properties are which need work on, and then, yes, I can't read all the questions, but yes, KKP and SWaCH are known to most of the GAIA members, I would say. And I will share the PPT if you like later, so that's not an issue at all. And we create awareness. So this is something that we do all the time. We create awareness constantly because there is more people coming in, there are more people using the service. So we create awareness constantly. That's one of the things we do. It's non-motorized. As I said, it's a push cart. And it is wherever possible, the wet waste is composted at, at the site of it, and dry waste gets recycled as much as possible. Whatever is not recyclable, I gave you an example of sanitary waste. Currently also thermocol is one of the things that cannot be recycled, so it goes into the system. And then we have other ancillary activities, like we basically have we also provide composting services. We have another project going on which is called Protoprint, where we are trying to create a 3D printer filament with waste plastic. This would be the first of its kind when it goes live. We are in a stage where we can actually take it live, but we do not have the marketing and other facilities. So we are trying to build on that. And we are constantly evolving. Like I said, the MLP, the multi-layer plastic project, is one more project which is evolving at all times. We are trying to go zero waste, which is something that GAIA absolutely understands. And, we would try, and we have already started in one of the wards in Pune. And eventually the idea is to replicate it all across Pune so that everything is the entire city is as zero waste as possible. Can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so what does it mean? What is the impact of SWaCH? There is, for the waste pickers, there is okay. So there is a way to, they actually get proper livelihoods, they get recognition, they get identity in society, and, they get a regular income. They have two streams of income. One of the streams is, of course, from the user fee, no salary. So the user fee is whoever uses the service pays for it, and that is how the user fee comes about. And then, of course, whatever they sell, recyclables, that is the other part of it. I would like to quickly touch upon the COVID situation in Pune, because I think that is something that is completely new. The other things are there in the presentation. We have been working as essential workers with ever since the lockdown in India happened. This is now almost 2 months ago. Waste pickers are there. 97% of the waste pickers are still coming to work, because basically the very old and the people who live very far and cannot access public transportation in these lockdown times are not able to make it. But systems are being set up wherein everybody is being serviced even currently. Waste is being collected. We are making sure that the waste pickers have PPE. We do have a need for constant supply of PPE, protective equipment. So we are trying to raise funds for that at all times. We also have to have rations being given to the waste pickers, because in many cases, they're not able to access the user fee. They're not able to access user fee because they are not able to reach out. I mean, many of the people who live in slums, for instance, have already moved to other areas. They have shut down their houses. They don't have the money to pay the waste pickers. So waste pickers, even despite having worked in the last month or so, have not been able to get the user fee. So despite not getting user fee, we are trying to raise funds through donations and things like that, so that we can provide a ration and we can provide personal protective equipment to the waste pickers. The service continues almost as good as normal. There are times when waste pickers have had to carry their little body weight in waste because of barricades and things like that. There are many stories. There is a lady who had to move home because the person, I mean, the place she was living in, the person said that they would have to either move or she would have to quit her job of waste picking because it was dangerous. And they decided that it was more important to, continue with the work. So now she's rented another house and she's living there. There are cases where people, had to leave their carts, just carry waste in bags because the carts could not go. Everything was blocked. It was difficult. So, I mean, they have been struggling, but they have been working hard. They have been making sure that waste is not on the street. They've been making sure that waste is actually being diverted properly and being, taken away by the municipal corporation, so that there are no health hazards because of waste piling up on the proliferating or piling up on the streets. So this is this is basically the short presentation that I would want to talk about. I don't know how many more slides are left, but basically this is the whole idea. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me separately as well on SWaCH, and we have the ID and everything on the website. You can reach out to me through our Instagram, through our Twitter, through our Facebook posts, social media, any kind of thing. And I would be very, very happy to answer any of these questions. Well, I hope I was clear on what SWaCH is about. And, these are the sorting sheds that you can see right now on screen that we use to sort our things, sort the waste, store it, make sure it can go to the right place. These are sorting sheds. We also look for sponsors for these kind of sorting sheds so that one can be available to every person. The big picture, that the big one that you see is our model sorting shed. We have just one of that, but we are hoping more will come up in due course, and as waste pickers get their recognition, as waste pickers get their spaces. Can I go to the next slide quickly, just to know what else I might be missing out on? The thing is, so these are the campaigns that we do. Like I said, we create awareness, and this is how we do it. We do it through street plays, we go to schools, we talk at corporates, we talk in housing societies to make sure that people know how to segregate waste, what is waste, who handles their waste. Because what we find is waste is something that the minute people put out of their doors, they completely forget about it. They don't know where it goes. We also conduct waste trails in Pune, wherein we actually take groups on a trail with the waste picker. They can follow the journey of waste all along as they, as the waste picker goes about their work. Can I have the next slide, please? So it is sustainable, and it is sustainable because it is done. We are working with push carts. It's not mechanized, so the fuel is saved, the energy is saved, and it is extremely easy to for people to reach out to the waste picker, because the waste picker comes to their door. They don't have to do anything extra, even in a slum. The problem with slums is that sometimes the awareness is less and people are all gone to work. So sometimes it's difficult, but we have managed to find a way to make sure that, there are people who work at like 6 o'clock in the morning and make sure the waste is collected. So everybody does their bit and makes sure that, it works, the system works. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is the snapshot of the current system. And as you can see, the PMC pays us, gives us a little bit of money to run the system, but we are saving an entire, a whole lot of money for the PMC. We are saving in terms of environmental costs because it is not mechanized. There's less fuel being used. We are recycling more, and we are making sure that the system is sustainable. We are also making sure that it's creating livelihoods, it's getting recognition on the social front for waste pickers for the work they do. When I say we, I mean SWaCH all the time. So I mean SWaCH is making sure that it is saving the city money. SWaCH is making sure that it is creating more and more sustainable livelihoods. SWaCH is making sure that more and more women are empowered. That's something also that I want to touch upon, because most of the workers in the system are women who are doing this work. So more and more women are empowered as they get financial independence. We do have trainings for all these kind of things as well. SWaCH does run training for any kind of things that, for instance, just before COVID, we actually ensured that that the members who work know how to use a personal protective equipment properly, that they know how to talk to people and make sure that they do not pick up anything that is hazardous to their own health. They wash their hands regularly. So trainings like that are going on at constant intervals, and that is the way SWaCH makes sure that it's all done safely. I don't know if, can I go to the next one? I have 3 minutes left apparently. Can I go to the next slide, please? Okay, so this is the impacts that I was talking about. The environmental impact is 4 lakh trees that we have saved just in 1 year. Greenhouse gases, of course, reduce. Fuel reduces. I mean, the amount of fuel that could be used to transport all that waste 100% reduces. You have, because if you look at the amount of carbon that is sequestered, obviously there is impact of that. That is the environmental impact. There is also the social impact, wherein there is existing livelihoods, and of course you are adding on more livelihoods. There is enhanced income for waste pickers, improved working conditions. For instance, they have access to health schemes, and they have access to other public schemes that would be applicable to them because they work with SWaCH. The benefits to the waste pickers directly is that they have segregated waste, through which the amount of recyclables does increase when you have segregated waste, as you all know. We have sorting sheds, which make sure that there's a space for them to sort through things. There is personal protective equipment like masks and gloves and stuff like that. These are in normal times. Of course, in COVID times, you would need more of the personal protective equipment. So that is a separate thing. But we have access to all this. I would be willing to answer any quick questions if there are any in the minute that I have left. There are 15 questions in the Q&A box. We want to be able. Okay, fine. So then maybe I could get the questions at the end of it or something like that. Or there an ability to do it together? All the questions as one?
Yeah, Suchi will have a portion for the Q&A later.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. So that's it. Can I go to the next slide, please? I think we're done. But, this is the entire system being explained. This is the MLP system. Can we go to the next slide? So we also take on composting. I mean, apart from collection of waste, waste pickers also are trained to provide in situ composting to the citizens. So, which is something that we do very often. Can I go to the next slide, please? So these are some of the programs we have. We also try and encourage the use of reuse of old, discarded items. So, and they are collected properly, they're kept properly. As you can see, they are done very well. And, this is the other thing. Let me, if you can access the Q&A box also. Where actually I'm, okay, I think we are, I think this is it. Basically, if there are any question answers at the end, I would be happy to answer. Yeah. These are some of the projects that I would be happy to talk about later.
All right. Thanks, Suchi, for sharing us your work in SWaCH, as well as the current situation and response we're providing for our waste pickers. We have some questions actually listed here. We'll try to answer them later, or maybe through chat or the live conversations after the presentations. And yeah, for the next presentation, I'd like to give the floor to Linh of Enda, Vietnam.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am Linh from Enda, Vietnam. And I would like to tell with you a little bit about Enda. And after that, I will talk about informal sector. It means we focus on independent waste collector in solid waste management, and also how the COVID pandemic affect to their life, and what we do for the relief for independent waste collector. And first, I would like to share with you a little bit about Enda. And Enda is the international non-government organization, and we start to operate in Vietnam since 1995 up to now. Enda work with the poor in the urban area, including migrants, and we focus on solid waste management. And in solid waste management, we focus on informal sector. And we do environmental awareness raising for community. We do the housing for the low-income people, community saving, slum upgrading, water and sanitation, and network for community and city. However, since 2011 up to now, when Vietnam overcome the poverty, Enda focus a lot on solid waste management. And until now, Enda has worked in different provinces and the city among Vietnam, like Ho Chi Minh, Nguyen, Da Nang, Huế, Con Tum, and Hanoi. Yes, next slide, please. And we have some mission and vision in this. Enda vision is a Vietnamese society where the people can live together in a peaceful, democratic, and equal manner. Government, citizen, and social organizations strengthen each other in order to fight poverty and injustice, as well as to build health environmental conditions. And Enda mission is we develop environmental, social, and economic strategy to enhance the standard of the living of the poor disadvantaged people in Vietnam to achieve the governmental goal and equality of the life. And Enda commits ourselves to promoting human rights, pluralism, cultural diversity, and gender equity. I only tell with you a little bit about Enda only, and I will focus on the informal sector, independent waste collector, on solid waste management. Next slide, please. And I would like to mention with you a little bit about solid waste management in Ho Chi Minh City. And in Ho Chi Minh City, there are two sectors involved in solid waste management. That is formal and informal sector. And formal sector in Ho Chi Minh City include the Sitenco and recycling company. Next slide, please. And Sitenco is mean the city environment company. And informal sector include independent waste collector, street waste picker, and rent shop. And in Ho Chi Minh City, formal and informal sector very close relation. Next slide, please. And work with informal sector. And in informal sector, we focus on independent waste collector only. And informal sector among Ho Chi Minh City, they include street waste picker, run shop, and independent waste collector. And street waste picker is the person who go on the street to pick recyclable and or to buy the recyclable from the household. And after that, they sell the recyclable for the run shop. And another is independent waste collector that I have just mentioned. They are the independent waste collector. They collect domestic waste from the household among Ho Chi Minh City. And after that, they test on recyclable and they transport remain waste to transferring station. And it means independent waste collector, they take very important role in solid waste management among Ho Chi Minh City. And 4,200 independent waste collector, they collect 60 to 65% of domestic waste among Ho Chi Minh City. And they work in hazardous environment, but they have no support from the government for social program. Next slide, please. And you can see why Enda focus on independent waste collector. And as I shared with you before, independent waste collector, they take very important role in solid waste management. They keep environment clean and reduce negative health impacts. Especially, they take a very important role in recycling plastic value chain. By they collect 60 to 65% of domestic waste. After that, they take on recyclable, and in recyclable every day, each independent waste collector, they can collect and recycle 15 kilo of on-car plastics, including single-use plastic for recycling. It means independent waste collector contribute in the plastic pollution a lot. And after test on recyclable, the independent waste collector, they transfer waste to transferring station. And after that, Sitenco will take that way to landfilling and make disposal. I mean here the informal independent waste collector and formal as Sitenco have a very close relation. And besides the independent waste collector, they are recyclable waste, especially plastics. It means they reduce the volume of waste to the landfilling and reduce the plastic to the marine environment, and they reduce the cost of the city for transportation and treatment cost. And they also, independent waste collector, they also provide the input for recycling company. And we can see the mutual support between the independent waste collector with the formal sector. As I mentioned with you with Sitenco and recycling company, it means the independent waste collector take very important role in solid waste management. Next slide, please. And you, as I mentioned with you before, why Enda focus on independent waste collector. And besides, they are very important role in recycling plastic value chain. They also the vulnerable group among Ho Chi Minh City. Because independent waste collector, they are the poorest of the poor. They lack of knowledge and skill. As we do the survey in 2011. 85% of men, 85% of women and 65% of men at independent waste collector, they didn't finish the primary school. And they quite difficult for them to access to information. And 65% of independent waste collector, they are migrant to Ho Chi Minh City. And they are migrants so that they very difficult for them to access to social welfare program for the poor among Ho Chi Minh City. Because on the social welfare program, they need the temporary or resident permanent in Ho Chi Minh City. And with the administration process in Ho Chi Minh City in particular and in Vietnam in general, it's quite difficult for migrant people to have a temporary or resident permanent in Ho Chi Minh City. If we could not have a finance to buy a house or something like that, quite difficult to obtain that. That's why the independent wage collector, they are very difficult to access to social welfare program. And as I mentioned before, the independent wage collector, they have to work in hazardous environment, and they have work every day. I can share with you that only 2 days a year, the independent wage collector can take day off only at Vietnamese traditional New Year. And they have to work every day because their income based on the collection fee and selling recyclable. And if they don't work, the household don't pay for them for the collection fee, it means they could not get the collection fee. That's why they have a work every day. And another reason is the independent wage collector, they have a very low invoice with the authority and community before they work independently. So their voice is didn't hear with the government or community look down at them because they work with weight. So before we support them, sometimes the stigma among community with the independent wage collector still exists heavily. And also the independent wage collector, they are easily affected by natural disaster and epidemic, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, because independent wage collector, they lack of knowledge, skill, and capacity to against them. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned with you, the working condition of the independent wage collector before and now, almost independent wage collector, they work in hazardous environment without social support from the government and welfare program, I mentioned before. And we do the survey, and 85% of independent wage collector, they work in hazardous environment, but without health insurance or accident insurance. That is the reason why they need to support from the local authority and outside at Enda. And another is the working condition. Also, they work very hard, but their voice is scarcely heard by the city government or community. However, when we work with them, we organize them in cooperative and alliance, or network for independent wage collector. So their voice is strengthened now, and the community and local authority hear them and support them. And as I mentioned with you, we are now currently implement the project under support of USAID since 2018 up to now. And I just mentioned that project with independent wage collector only. Besides this, we have many projects to support for independent wage collector before to improve their life and working condition, as well as to organize them in cooperative or alliance to strengthen their voice. Next slide, please. And as we mentioned with you, with the project Nicole mentioned before, with the project, we come very short way is the informal sector on practice. In this project, we already support for independent wage collector in 4 parts. The first is we support social protection for independent wage collector. You can see the figure I mentioned in the slide. Nearly 2,000 independent wage collectors can get support from our project. Sorry, we have not enough funding to support for 4,200. We just support nearly half of them. We support them with the protective device like gloves and boots. We support them with the accident insurance. And for accident insurance, because they work in risk environment, that's why we support on independent wage collector in our projects with the accident insurance. And also we encourage the independent wage collector to buy the health insurance by themselves, or Enda give a cooperative or syndicate loan and let the independent wage collector borrow that loan to buy health insurance. And the other, and I work with local government and try to mainstream innovation from Enda to support them. And luckily in 2000, 21, the government can support the health insurance for independent waste collector. However, they just support for the independent waste collector if they have a temporary or permanent resident only. So we estimated that about 30% of independent waste collector among 4,200 independent waste collector can get support from health insurance program from the government in 2021. And the second part, and I work with independent waste collector, is we do capacity building for independent waste collector and their cooperative. And in this project, we conduct the training for more than 700 independent waste collector with different topics related to how to prevent risk for independent waste collector, how to prevent the disease, first aid, income generation or marketing for independent waste collector, because we think that Enda could not stay with the independent waste collector forever. So we try to capacity building for them. Yes, and after we conduct the training, we also ask the independent waste collector who participate in the training can transfer the knowledge and skill to the remain independent waste collector. Because some independent waste collector could not attend in the training course. And the third part in this project, we work with government to do advocacy, some regulation or decision effect to the life of the independent waste collector. And in this project, I would like to share with you, we already contribute in approval decision 38 to replace the decision 88. It means in decision 38, it means the increased collection fee. And in increased collection fee for the independent waste collector, it means that the income of independent waste collector increase. And in decision 88 before, the collection fee is from 25,000 per month per household until 48,000 per month per household. It means the income of independent waste collector double when this decision approved. And also, Enda contribute in the decision 44, and decision 44 is Ho Chi Minh City for the on the city to do waste separation. And in this, we do many types for advocacy, and after that, we get the result in 2018. However, until now, Ho Chi Minh City, they changed the way to do waste separation. Before they do in organic and recyclable, but now when they apply the methods of incinerator, they change. But we still do advocacy for the government because the incinerator is not good the method to deal with the waste. So we continue to do advocacy on this. And in this also we do with government to change the documentary 4448. Because in this documentary 4448, for the independent waste collector change to the current equipment to truck. But the truck is not suitable with independent waste collector because the truck is quite expensive and truck is big for independent waste collector because most of them work in the small street and only. So the truck could not find the parking place. And after that, independent waste collector, very difficult to get the driving license. That's why we try to do advocacy. And at the end of 2019, the government already issued the documentary 782. It means they let independent waste collectors select the suitable equipment for them to collect. It means we already do this. Next slide, please. And in this, as we mentioned before, this is the model we organize for independent waste collector. Yes, and in this situation, as I mentioned before, we mentioned about the COVID and how COVID affects independent waste collector life. So next slide, please. With the COVID situation in Vietnam and how the COVID affect to the independent waste collector lives. Next slide, please. Until now, until today, Vietnam have a 3 to 4 case with positive with COVID. However, the government are very strict at the beginning. They do the social distancing in April, and on the school closed, and some until now we come back to work. But some companies still quite difficult to operate with their capacity. And how the COVID is affect to independent waste collector, because as I mentioned with you before, the independent waste collector, they take very important role in solid waste management among Ho Chi Minh City. So they could not afford to social distancing to protect themselves, because they have to go to collect waste every day. And the other is the independent waste collector. They contact directly with domestic waste, and domestic waste is the result of infection. That, and another is the independent waste collector reduce about 30 to 40% of income because social distancing. And also Vietnam is very strict at the beginning. So on the school clothes, small business clothes, that's why the independent waste collector could not get the collection fee from this. So income the rent shop closed also. So independent waste collector could not sell recyclable. And as I mentioned before, income from independent waste collector come from collection fee and recyclable. And so they also take very important role in that, but they lack of support from the government. Next slide, please. That is the reason why Enda Vietnam tried to work with the donor to find the way to support for independent waste collector. And with USAID project, we already revised and support for 1,500 independent waste collector with antibacterial wash strain and also free mat. And thanks to support from GAIA, next slide please. Thanks to support from GAIA, we also have a chance to support more than about 2,110 independent waste collector with gloves and free mask also. Next slide, please. And on the chance, I would like to say special thanks to GAIA to support us in that, and thank the cooperation with the Vietnam Zero Waste Alliance for your support for us to give this fund to support for our independent waste collector. And we would like to make recommendation for waste picker with the welfare. And I would like to let independent waste collector to access to social protection, as we mentioned before. And in this, we can support them with the protective device or the health and accident insurance. And the other is another part to let independent waste collector with capacity. And we continue to provide the training for the independent waste collector, because as I shared before, we could not stay with them forever. So we should prepare for them strong enough to stand in their feet. That's why capacity is very important, and strengthen independent waste collector organization to enhance their voice with local authority and community, because only the authority support them and community support them will make their lives more better. And that is for on my presentation. Thank you very much for your listening. And I think I have some question here. So Nicole, I will answer or later.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Lin. So thanks for um, providing some insights on your work in Vietnam, and also to Suchi for sharing her experience with SWaCH. So yeah, we'll spend the rest of this webinar to answer some of the questions. Um, okay, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to answer all. I'll try to pick some of the questions that are maybe interesting. You can also take a look at the question and answer box. Some of the questions are answered through chat. So, and then please do post your more Q&As if you have additional queries from our presenters. Here's a question from Julian Cirineo. His question is, has this kind of initiative attracted other cities or organizations to adopt a similar model? How is it easy to replicate? So maybe if you can share some, maybe are there opportunities for other cities to actually replicate the work or the model? And the third question is, what's the biggest challenge so far? So yeah, anyone can answer.
Is that for SWaCH?
Yeah, you can. I think this is for SWaCH because of, yeah, because of the timestamp. So
Okay.
yeah.
So the question is about replicating the model for other cities, right?
Yeah, how is it easy to replicate, and what's the biggest challenge so far, maybe in relation
Okay.
to
Okay.
replication?
So the thing is that it is not I mean, it is replicable. It is 100% replicable because all it needs is for people to come together and decide that waste pickers who are already working in the field, who are domain experts, should actually be allowed to, get together, and it requires a public-private partnership. Basically, the municipality of the city or whichever is the governing body of the city, along with, I mean, in India, for instance, in rural areas, it is the Gram Panchayat and not the municipality. So any organization, any governing body of a particular place can come together and say, along with an organization like SWaCH, and say that, we are going to team up with the experts and we are going to replicate the system. Now, the system may not be replicable as is. I mean, you cannot take a system exactly as is and replicate it in another place. But there are ways to do it. For instance, if it is not a, I mean, if it's a highly mechanized system, maybe the way to do it is not go through push carts. I mean, maybe you could still have the mechanized systems, but not have waste being put together as one and being given without being sorted. So my answer to this question would be that it is not difficult to replicate. You just have to find find a system that actually works within the settings of that city and the population, the number of waste pickers available, the municipality, the facilities that are currently being done. If there is absolutely no segregation, then you would have to start with that very basic concept of how you have to segregate dry and wet waste. You have to ensure that the dry waste goes to the waste pickers or whoever is working in that system. And then it is absolutely possible to replicate it. What are the biggest challenges? The biggest challenges would be, like I said, if there is no awareness about segregation itself, that would be one of the biggest challenges. How does one segregate waste? How does one tell everybody to segregate waste? Because even if there are 100 households and 80 of them segregate, 20 of them do not, it is difficult to make sure that the waste stays safe and it stays in a way that it is more recyclable. So that would be the one big challenge. The other big challenge would be the organization has to come together. In the case of SWaCH, for instance, the waste pickers who wanted to work every day and who are willing to come to work on a regular basis are the ones who joined SWaCH as a cooperative. There is no force, there is no employee system. They are all willing to be part of the system, and that is how they came together. How that can happen in another city is you have to work more at the grassroots, and you have to make sure that the people who are already in the system are included in the system. It has to become an inclusive system. So that is maybe one of the bigger challenges that people in other cities might face. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thanks, Suchi. Would you like to add something about that, Lynn, or do you prefer answering another question?
Depending on you, but from my point of view, if we for the replication, if we want to replication the model in another city, we should work with the government, because only when in the government they involve or not. In case we have a budget, and we should do this align with the government program to ensure the sustainability in the future. because we could not support for the one model for a long time, and we could not have enough funding. At the end, we just do the model, and after that, we add the mainstream our innovation for the government program. It means we already replicate the model to the other province or open to another district or another city. That I think depends. And for me to do the recycling, it means sometimes we need to do the replication to another city and province. At the Suchi mentioned, we can establish the cooperative or social enterprise and ask for sharing experience from the formal one so that we can replicate better. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. So actually, there's another question that's related to your work. So um, the the participant from a question from Sylvie. So she asked about if do you also support the Chai and Dong Nat in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh? If not, why? So yeah, maybe if you can
Yes.
answer that.
Yeah. Thank you very much for a very great question. Unfortunately, we could not support ve chai or đồng nát. Ve chai or đồng nát, we mean way picker. As I mentioned with you, in Ho Chi Minh City, they have a 4,200 independent weight collector and also 2,000 strict weight picker of ve chai. It means we limited funding. That's why we just focus on independent weight collector, because when we select our target beneficiary, we have to select the most vulnerable group. Yes, also, I mean the donut also vulnerable group, but because our limited funding and we could not support for all ve chai, that's why until now we have to do with independent weight collector only, not strict weight picker. Yes. And the reason is we lack of finance and also on capacity also, because very huge amount among Ho Chi Minh City. And until now, this project only work in Ho Chi Minh City, not in Hanoi or another province. In Enda have another project in Nguyen before, but related to the way to resources, it means related to composting, not independent waste collector. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I think this question is maybe for both presenters. So, what are the safety measures that waste speakers are doing or practicing while collecting waste from COVID-affected quarantine homes?
So, if I may speak, the thing is that in Pune, we have actually not, I mean, there is a separate system. So, initially, when this started, when the COVID pandemic started, initially there was a little bit of confusion of how to go about picking up people who were quarantined, I mean, their masks and the things that the PPE that they want to dispose of. But the system that was set in place was that the municipality collects from anybody who is quarantined. So we do not have to, I mean, the waste pickers on a daily basis are collecting regular waste, like, you know, plastic packets, bottles, jars, and things like that. And your regular waste, as much as possible, we are also encouraging people to compost what they can at home, or if, you know, however they can. And the way that the PPE is collected is through a separate municipality system, and the waste pickers do not come in contact with the people who are quarantined or who have some kind of issue with COVID. So, and we find that on a regular basis, people who are using PPE to, you know, to go about their work, they are trying not to use disposables. They are mostly using reusables. Like the masks are made of cloth that they do not have to put in the waste. They are washing them and they are reusing them. So we find that we do not, in fact, this was something that we served very quickly, but we find that the PPE items are not so much coming in the waste. it is mostly the quarantined people are giving it to the municipality system, and the waste pickers are getting regular waste like plastic and paper and things like that. Here I must mention that the amount of waste has actually reduced. Yeah, I mean, it has reduced, depending on which area it has reduced by anywhere between 40 to 20% is the reduction in waste, depending on which area you're working in. Maybe because people, I mean, this is just conjecture. There's not been enough time to do a very deep survey on this, but it is maybe because like you cannot go shopping for clothes, you cannot go shopping for shoes. A lot of retail, I mean, even e-commerce is not allowed to sell you anything which is non-essential. So the amount of waste which is coming out of homes currently is a lot less, and overall the waste has reduced.
Thanks, Suchi. Ms. Lin, you'd like to add anything about that? But I'll do follow up aside from maybe safety guidelines for independent waste collectors. Are there also some guidelines that Enda provides for maybe recycling shops or other recyclers? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, when we work with the independent waste collector, we also try to mobilize them to reuse that, also glow or mask. They use many times, not only one time, and throw away. And also the situation of the difficult to find the market for the low value of plastics. Until now, we are networking with another project, and they can buy the low value of single-use plastics for recycling. However, during the COVID pandemic, this innovation have to stop because for the strict guidelines from the government in treatment way during the COVID pandemic. But after we go back, we work normally. We still to do careful with step by step to find the solution for the low value plastic, as you mentioned there. In Ho Chi Minh City, not PPP is not problem anymore because they recycle very well. About 98% of PPT recycle, just only low value plastics only. And we already have an innovation with to combine with ton-to-ton projects also. And we can reuse we can do the recyclable of the low value plastic also. That is one I would like to add. And I totally agree with the Suchi.
So actually, yeah, so exactly. I was going to add a corollary to what Lynn said. Basically, we also have a similar system wherein right now, the recycling is at a standstill in India. I mean, at least in Pune, because we do not have any of the scrap shops open. So everything is nothing is being sold to recyclers, or nothing is being taken away for recycling. We are requesting citizens to keep the recyclables with them, and we are saying that as soon as the shops open and stuff and things become more normal, that's when the waste will start getting to recyclers actually. So that is how that's being taken care of. Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, so maybe if we have some time for a few questions left. Okay.
Some of the questions that I have got on the question answer, chat, I think they can be answered more specifically with the person, and they could send the question to me separately, and we can talk about it, because if they are connected to Pune city, it makes more sense for me to address it separately, about specific waste pickers and about specific things that happen. Like there is a question about how one of the waste pickers is keeping the recyclables on a footpath. So I just need to find out what this is, where this is, and then address it separately. So some of the questions that have come in the chat, if you have sent me a question in the chat and I've not been able to answer it, that could be the reason. So just saying.
Yeah, thanks, Suchi, for that reminder. So Um, we'll actually we won't be able to answer all the questions in this Q&A box, but we'll compile them and send them to our presenters, to Lin and Suchi,
Sounds
and
good.
yeah, we'll try our best to maybe send them through email or some other way to at least share these responses. Maybe I'll do maybe a couple of questions. Um, yeah, this one is specific to Miss Lin. So, is the independent waste pickers in Ho Chi Minh, are they already organized as a cooperative or a union or maybe an alliance? What's their working relationship with the city government?
Yes. Uh, as I shared with you before, because the independent waste collector, they take very important role in solid waste management. And when we work with them, we form them in cooperative alliance. It means they have work directly with the government. For example, for the government can give them directly the guideline, and they can provide the feedback with the government, or they can do the dialogue with the government if they think some policy or regulation is not suitable with them. As I shared with you before, they do the round table with the government to change the decision 4448 or decision 88 in collection fee, etc. And also when we organize them in cooperative, they are the cooperative is warranty for the benefit of the independent waste collector. For example, when the independent waste collector go to collect waste in the house, and if the house don't pay the collection fee, the cooperative on behalf of the independent waste collector can send a document to the government, and the government will work with the household and ask the household have to pay for independent waste collector. That's one example how the cooperative work with the government. It means the cooperative is the protect the benefit of the independent waste collector, and they work directly with government.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Lin. So we're down to our last question. So for those who still have questions, you can use the Q&A box. You still have some queries to our presenters. We'll try to answer via email. For our last question, the waste pickers are the most vulnerable section of the society in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. Unlike the other frontliners like health professionals or police, who are um, often lauded and appreciated, very little is shown for the waste pickers. Uh, what can we do something about uh, this situation? Maybe that question is for both Ms. Lin and for Suchi.
Yes, as I mentioned with you, in case the independent waste collector, they are vulnerable group, and also not only individual waste collector, also vé chai or đầu nắp, as someone asked me before, they are suffer a lot from the COVID pandemic or another disaster. So of course, what we do is we are the organization to support them. We try to mobilize the funding from outside and inside to support them directly with relief. As I mentioned in that, we can provide them with wash strand, clothes, or face mask, etc. Immediately and on time with as GAIA support us, and we do our Youth IID project. Besides, we try to mobilize community to support them, and also mobilize how to mainstream the our innovation with government program. For example, in Ho Chi Minh, Enda work with independent waste collector, and they have no support from the government for a long time. Also, they take very important role in solid waste management. And when we do advocacy with government for a long time, and as I said, at the end of 2019, the government issued the document 782, and government will support independent waste collector with health and accident insurance. However, still limited the number because most of migrant independent waste collector could not accept that because they have no temporary or permanent resident. And we continue to do advocacy with the government how to improve the administration process to get independent waste collector obtain the permanent or temporary resident in Ho Chi Minh City so they can access to the social welfare. What I mean here is how we try to mobilize inside and outside support for informal sector in this case, and also we try to mainstream our innovation with the government program to support them. That is what I think what we can do.
So, if I may also answer the question, we are looking for support for the waste pickers on two fronts. One is the personal protective equipment, because as you can imagine, I mean, though they have been used to using gloves and masks, they need them much more today than ever before. So, and they have to wash them, they have to make sure that they're clean, they have to make sure they're safe and things like that. So we do need personal protective equipment. That is one part. And we also need, I mean, beyond what the municipality can provide, beyond what the government can provide is what we are looking for. The other thing is, like I mentioned, they have no salaries. They have only user fees as their primary source of and regular source of income. They do sell recyclables and make money from that, but it is less. And it is also currently at a complete standstill because all scrap shops are shut. So it is impossible for them to get any money from recycling. The only source of income they have is the user fee, which is also currently not being paid on a very regular basis because people are traveling, people are not having jobs. I mean, people are not there, they have moved away from there and things like that. So on two fronts, we need support. One is, like I said, the PPE, and the other support is in terms of food donations, I mean, ration donations, wherein because the waste pickers, other family members also are not able to work, they are the primary breadwinner currently. And so helping them, and they do not have access sometimes to shops because by the time they finish their work, I mean, the way the lockdown is happening, the timings are such that it is impossible for them to go somewhere and get the food. Transport is not available. Public transport is at a standstill. So we are trying to ensure that they are getting rations as well. So those are the two fronts on which we are trying to mobilize resources through public funds, through donations, through corporate CSR, and through basically any means that we can to ensure that they are getting those that support through us. And if anybody wants to check out what we have done so far, please go to our social media profiles. You should be able to find some data on what we have done so far, what we are planning to do in the future. We have links on which you can donate if you wish, if you like. And we would be happy to talk further about this if you like to, have a personal connect for this. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Suchi. Thanks, Lynn, for joining us in this amazing conversation about waste pickers and your organization's responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. Uh, Shout out also to our audience who stayed in this 1.5 hours of webinar, and please do catch succeeding or future webinars we're having. I think that's the next slide. So we have upcoming webinars in June. We have one on organics management for online campaigning, and on the part 2 of our feature on our frontliners in featuring waste workers in Asia on June 23. And for those in this screen or in this webinar, you'll receive an email containing the slides and the recording of this webinar. So for those who weren't able to attend, friends or colleagues, feel free to share these resources. And please also take note in my back of my screen, some of the social media platforms that you can also follow. So we have um, accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have additional resources in our website and no-burn.org and zerowasteworld.org. You can, I think, you can also search the organizations, the SWaCH and Vietnam on these social media accounts as well. And lastly, we have a evaluation survey. So if you can, yeah, Sonia posted it in the chat box. You can click it, so at least we can get some helpful feedback for this webinar. Okay, on behalf of GAIA Asia Pacific, our presenters, Suchi and Lin, thank you everyone for joining and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for being a patient and wonderful audience. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving us a chance to share our work and our experience and learn from you. Thank you.
Thank you.